parte de los 4 grandes bloques temáticos que les comentábamos que tiene IAB Conecta este año. ¿Por qué innovación, creatividad, estrategia y liderazgo? Como lo mencionábamos en el principio, el tema de innovación es un primer ingrediente dentro de los grandes retos que estamos enfrentando como una industria que se está transformando rápidamente, evolucionando y convergiendo. Y los otros integrantes que tienen que ver con esto en términos de creatividad, liderazgo y estrategia significan justo estos ingredientes que nos ayudarían precisamente a enfrentar estos retos y cambios. Pero también, retomando la conversación que teníamos en la mañana sobre respecto a IAB Conecta, la plataforma, el foro que se ha convertido, y gracias nuevamente por acompañarnos en esta 9ª edición. Un punto importante de reflexión es el ser un foro de encuentro y de reflexión sobre todos estos temas. No solo para presentar la información más reciente o datos más recientes que pueda haber en el mercado, sino también tendencias y a los líderes que están construyendo a la industria de la publicidad digital a nivel global. Como este año en particular lo han visto, al tener 2 días completos para poder llevar a cabo el Congreso, pues tenemos la oportunidad de abordar más temas. El hecho de poder tener conferencistas de diferentes partes del mundo y por supuesto también latinoamericanos y mexicanos, también ha sido un paso importante que IAB Conecta lleva este año. Hemos querido tener una perspectiva internacional y lo habrán visto en los conferencistas. Conferencistas que vienen de la India, Estados Unidos, Reino Unido, España, México, y bueno, pues con toda esa visión internacional que nos permite también tener esa perspectiva de dónde nos encontramos. No solo México, sino en realidad toda la oportunidad que tiene América Latina. Uno de los datos que presentaba Raj Rao hace unos instantes justo hablaba del enorme potencial que tiene el comercio móvil en América Latina por las tasas de crecimiento que hay. Cierto es que hay enormes retos por infraestructura, polarización de la sociedad y otros aspectos que afectan profundamente el desarrollo, pero el potencial está ahí. Las oportunidades para poder desarrollar esto están listas para poderse utilizar. Déjenme contarles una breve anécdota de un evento también de nuestros colegas de IAB en Estados Unidos. Hay un foro que de hecho fue la base para la inspiración de lo que es hoy IAB Conecta, se llama IAB Mix, que por cierto, quienes estén interesados en asistir también pueden acercarse. Para darles una idea, Kevin Spacey va a ser uno de los keynote speakers en el evento. Y este evento, el IAB Mix, el año pasado tuvo a destacados conferencistas también, entre ellos estaba Sir Martin Sorrell, que todos ustedes, muchos conocerán por ser la cabeza de WPP, uno de los grupos de agencias más importantes a nivel mundial. Y Sir Martin Sorrell hacía una reflexión, prácticamente toda su conferencia estuvo dirigida a un gran tema, ¿no? Y el tema era China. Prácticamente el mensaje era, tienen que ver lo que está pasando en China y el crecimiento de la economía y las oportunidades de marcas, productos, servicios que están sucediendo en China son extraordinarias. En ese contexto, pues bueno, la perspectiva de América Latina no parecía estar en el radar. En este evento, 2 o 3 días después, teníamos ya una junta global entre nuestros colegas de IAB, les mencionaba ya son 42 países los que conforman la red de IAB a nivel internacional, y me tocó presentar a América Latina. Entonces no era un momento como tan fácil para ponerlo en contexto, sobre todo cuando uno de los conferencistas destacados del evento, como Sir Martin Sorrell, decía, bueno, es que el foco es en China. Entonces aproveché la ocasión justo para poder iniciar la presentación diciendo, bueno, ustedes ya oyeron lo que dice Sir Martin Sorrell con respecto a que el foco es China. Déjenme decirles entonces quiénes son de los principales inversionistas en América Latina, y resulta que los que principalmente invierten en América Latina en infraestructura, servicios, es China. Así es que sirvió mucho como para poder construir el puente de voltear a lo que está pasando en América Latina, las tasas de crecimiento, la vinculación que existe en cuanto al consumo de contenidos e interacción en cuanto a servicios y respuesta del consumidor en plataformas digitales es extraordinario. Y los dispositivos móviles lo son también, como una parte fundamental en lo que habíamos visto en las mañanas por los teléfonos celulares, smartphones, tablets y muchos otros más dispositivos que se van a conectar a Internet. Estamos a, no podría decir minutos, pero unos días, semanas, meses, de que cada vez más dispositivos que se conecten a Internet van a cambiar la forma en que nos relacionamos y oportunidades que hoy todavía son por descubrir. Los automóviles. Hoy ya conectamos al automóvil con nuestro teléfono celular y empezamos a tener acceso a otros contenidos y experiencias que hace unos años eran imposible imaginar. Y en ese sentido, pensar y hablar del futuro de mobile es fascinante. Así que quiero a continuación, para hacer la presentación de nuestra siguiente invitada, a pedirle a Luis Arbizu, ahora en su rol de director general de Yahoo México, que me acompañe para presentar a nuestra siguiente conferencista.
Gracias, hola, ¿qué tal? Buenas tardes a todos ustedes. Tengo el honor de presentar hoy a nuestro siguiente speaker. Nuestro siguiente speaker viene de Yahoo Labs, algo que realmente no es muy conocido aquí en México. Yahoo Labs es nuestro departamento de investigación y desarrollo. Yahoo Labs cuenta con más de 200 científicos en 7 diferentes países. Algo que a lo mejor tampoco saben es que todos ustedes que tienen un Smart TV, hay una alta probabilidad de que la plataforma que estén utilizando sea tecnología que es de Yahoo. También seguramente ustedes utilizan la aplicación de Yahoo Clima, la aplicación más utilizada de clima en el mundo. Ellos hicieron, por ejemplo, el algoritmo en donde toma todas las fotos de Flickr y las categoriza para que cuando ustedes estén viendo el clima se parezca la foto que está atrás a la experiencia de cómo está afuera en ese momento. Ella se llama Beverly Harrison y es la Principal Scientist del equipo de investigación y comportamiento del usuario y Mobile Sensing. Nos va a hablar específicamente de cómo entregar contenido hiperpersonalizado a los Smart TVs, a las tablets, a los teléfonos, a todo lo que también es wearable technology. Por favor, ayúdenme a dar la bienvenida a Beverly. Beverly
Harrison.
Please come.
So I'm very excited to be here from Yahoo, and I'm representing Yahoo Labs today, which is the research division of our company. Yahoo Labs is about 200 scientists working in 7 different countries, and we build some of the advanced technology that goes under the hood in a lot of our products that drives some of the recommendation algorithms, some of our automatic image categorizing with Flickr images, and I'll be talking today in particular about the mobile research team that I lead and some of the new research projects we're looking at and exploring in mobile to give you an idea of some of the future technologies that we're interested in. So what I want to talk about is how mobile is reshaping consumer daily habits. And in particular, we're looking at smart experiences that can accompany you throughout the day in whatever tasks you're doing. These are highly personalized, so they're tuned to your particular habits and routines, whether you're a student in high school or an employee working for a company or a retired couple. We're also looking at how we nuance these specifically for your needs as they change throughout the day, when you're in your car, when you're shopping, when you're at work or at school. And in particular, we're focused on looking at new kinds of content we might deliver, new sorts of apps we might deliver on phones or tablets or TVs, and new opportunities for ads and retailers. So what I want to do is walk you through a series of applications that we're building in the research lab, and these are things that we're actively studying to figure out what are the right solutions, what do people expect the experiences are going to be, and what are the ways we would tune this. And I'll also highlight for you what we think certain new ad plays are or possible new ad formats that we're experimenting with. So the first one I want to talk about is a daily alarm clock. And in this case, the idea is to deliver a key package of information to you at the start of your day. So while you're getting ready for work or for school, what kind of content feed would you like that gives you some sort of overview from morning to evening? And in particular, we're drawing from a number of Yahoo content sources, again, highly personalized, and I'll walk you through what those are, but for example, telling you what the traffic is like on your commute route, telling you what your first appointment of the day is, giving you the top news stories or the top new emails that have arrived since the night before. The idea is that this would fit smoothly into your morning routines. So in particular, you can actually listen to this feed of articles, summarizations, and appointments while you're doing things like brushing your teeth or getting ready for work or making coffee. So you can track it with a glance. You can also listen to an audio track that's reading you these news stories, and the visual display is synchronized to what's being read to you, and then you can skip or save content.
Good morning. Today's date is April 14th, 2014. The time is 6 a.m. The weather today is fair. Current temperature is 60 degrees. High for today is 78 degrees. Pollen count is high. You may find Claritin allergy relief helpful today. Your first appointment of the day is at 9 a.m. for product review meeting in boardroom 3. Traffic is unusually heavy today. Your estimated travel time to work is 1 hour. You have 7 new email messages. 5 messages are work-related, 2 are personal. Your morning news digest is ready. Stepford City Council has decided to close 8th Street between Portola Street and Montclair Avenue for road repairs in preparation for the annual Summer Street Fair. Next story, rockets fired from Gaza draw airstrikes from Israel, Jerusalem. Rockets fired from the Gaza Strip landed in southern Israel on Monday morning, prompting Israeli airstrikes that hit at least one training site of Hamas, the militant Palestinian faction that rules Gaza. The exchange of fire between Palestinian militants and Israeli forces was the most significant clash in more than a month.
So first I'd like to point out that my team voted on the worst pajamas possible for this video, as you may have noticed. And apologies for my bad acting in these videos, and thank you for the great video production to the Yahoo team. What I want to do is walk you briefly through the apps that sort of flew by in that quick segment. And one of the things we're doing is surveying users to find out what kinds of things they want to hear about and how much. So in this particular case, there's obviously a clock time. We're giving local weather reports. And one of the things I'll highlight in weather is that we also slid in this fairly subtle allergy relief medication ad. This was shot in the spring when allergies run high. So we had this allergy relief ad in the weather forecast when it was giving pollen count. We also read off the first calendar appointment of the day so that you know when you have to arrive at a destination, the current traffic in the moment, the top new emails, both personal and work-related, categorized for you. And then we put in a Yahoo News Digest feed with the News Digest app that summarizes local news and world news. So I want to say a couple of words about what we can learn from developing this kind of a research app and testing it very, very early with users, way ahead of this ever being a product app that Yahoo would launch globally. So one of the things we're trying to understand is what type of content do people want and how much of it do we deliver? So how many news articles is appropriate? How much do we read back to them? How quickly? How many emails do they want to hear? What is the best audio experience? So this was a case where we have an app running and we assume the user is more or less listening to the app, but they're not actually interacting with it and changing up content. So the assumption was this is more of a passive experience where users can save content for later, but they're typically not controlling the interface as much with a speech command. We also looked at ads in context. And in particular, what we know from our desktop advertising assessments are that when you personalize ads, for instance, give seasonal ads that are related to winter time or flu medications or clothing for winter, or it might even be opposite of seasonal, meaning if it's winter in Chicago and you start giving them vacation ads for Mexico, those ads have a dramatically significant increase in click-through rates, a dramatically significant increase in engagement on the user's side. So what we want to do is carry this forward into the mobile experiences and potentially into the audio ad experiences. So this particular alarm clock interface was more or less reading you a bunch of information first thing in the morning in a package. One of the other things we're obviously interested in is on-the-go interactions. And in this case, we're looking at speech interactions that sort of mimic conversation. So you're on your bike going to work, you're in a car, you're walking to work or on public transit. What kind of interfaces would you expect? How would you expect to interact with various types of content? And how do we facilitate taking actions with that content? And the idea here again is to fit it into the routine but without distracting from key tasks. And one of my favorite images here is the woman driving her car where she's clearly texting and you can see people lined up roughly with her hood. So that's the thing we want to actually avoid doing. Do I have any new work emails since last night?
You have 3 new work emails.
Read me the first message.
First email, sent yesterday at 5 p.m. from Marissa Mayer. Subject, can you send me a copy of the presentation slides?
Read me the second message.
Second email, sent yesterday at 6 p.m. from Corey Redfield. Subject, here are latest edits for video.
Read me the third message.
Third email, sent yesterday at 8 p.m. from Amanda Stent. Subject, room has changed for tomorrow's speech project meeting.
Make a note on my calendar of the room change. Do I have any personal emails?
You have 2 new personal emails. First email, sent today at 5 a.m. Reminder from Florist Mom's birthday is tomorrow.
Make a note on my calendar for 6 p.m. tonight to remind me to send Mom flowers. Read me the next personal message.
Next email, your Yahoo shopping order was shipped today. Your package is scheduled to arrive tomorrow evening at your home address.
Find me the cheapest gas station nearby.
There is a Shell station on the left at the next intersection. BP is offering a 5-cent per gallon discount today. The nearest BP station is 5 minutes or 10 blocks away.
Give me the route to the BP station.
Stay on First Avenue for half a mile. Turn right on Main Street. The BP station is on your right.
So in this case, we're looking at an interface which, even though it's synchronized visually with the commands, what we want to do is essentially create a non-visual experience where you can use speech to control all aspects of your interaction with the system. And in particular, we want you to be able to integrate things across applications. So in some of the examples we showed in this case, for instance, you get an email message about a meeting change, and what you want to be able to do is request that that be reflected in your calendar and update a room in a sort of simple and straightforward way. We also want to integrate online shopping and recommendations with calendars or deferred actions. So one of the things that we've noticed in some of our user studies were that you get reminders in your calendar, for instance, from a florist about your mother's birthday and ordering flowers, but it may not come at what's a convenient time for you to browse online, look for what you want to select, and then order things. So what we want to enable is these messages to come in as reminders, but you can actually push them onto your calendar for a weekend or an evening or a later time, and the search results will embed themselves into your calendar right there and then, so that you could actually see, for instance, the typical bouquets you've ordered in the typical price range that you've used in the past, the typical gift items you've purchased, and now those search results sit exactly when and where you want to order them so that you can then take action later at a time that's more convenient. So this allows us to integrate across several different kinds of apps, which may look like online search, mail, calendar, and it just moves the task seamlessly through all of those. We also showed an example in this video clip of something we're looking at called bidding for business. So from our studies of things like mobile search, we know what the top, for example, 100 search queries are, and invariably close to the top are things like asking for a gas station nearby or a restaurant nearby. What we want to be able to do is, knowing that you're looking for those things in the moment, allow other businesses to potentially bid or offer discounts in near real time to try and create more incentive for you to go to their gas station or their restaurant, knowing that you're looking for it right now. So we're trying to experiment with these models that not only track your behavior of the places you visit using location technologies, but they could also potentially influence your behavior and cause you to go to a different or new place based on offering these in-the-moment incentives. And then again, this is more than asking for something nearby like a gas station or a restaurant. We can also understand things about our users to know which types of restaurants they go to, whether they're vegan or not. So we can actually start tuning these recommendations and search queries and changing the rank ordering so that what it's doing is looking at the retail businesses that we know they're frequent customers at, the restaurants that they know they prefer, or it plays to their dietary restrictions, for example, or the location they're at in the moment, and it's recommending things both close and personalized. And then finally, with mobile technology, we have this new opportunity to actually know what ads people have seen on their phones or tablets, and then a day later or several days later, know if they visited those businesses. So you can start doing more sophisticated things like promoting sales at retail stores on weekends, for example, and then we would know whether the user actually went to those stores on a Saturday after seeing these advertisements that announce these sales, for instance. So we've done a lot of studies of ad personalization, as you might imagine, and some of these have been very detailed interviews where we have people bring in all of their mobile devices, we walk them through the kinds of web pages they look at, we ask them to identify which things they believe are ads or content, we ask them which things they believe are personalized or not. We've also done some larger scale surveys with our market research team, and in this case, in a 6,000 person survey, we wanted to find out if people believe that they can tell the difference between an ad that's personalized and a traditional ad. And it turns out that about 2/3 of the people can tell the difference when an ad is tailored to their past behavior. They can tell the difference between a personalized ad and a traditional ad, and more than half of them have a preference for receiving personalized ads. We additionally asked questions about why users would interact with these ads, and we compared it for personalized and non-personalized ads. Again, this is a pool of about 6,000 people, and we asked them questions like, do you feel the ads are more relevant to you? Are you more interested in those products or services? Are you curious about the advertiser or the product? Do you feel more connected? Do you enjoy them more? The specific numbers here are not quite what matters most. What matters more is that if you go to personalized ads over non-personalized, almost all of those numbers for all of the metrics we've looked at virtually double. So this gives us much more incentive to try and figure out clever ways of personalizing and clever ways of continuing to deliver that on desktop and mobile experiences both. So I want to talk next about interchanging speech and touch and being able to create great mobile search experiences. So this is something that we're extremely focused on in Yahoo. Search drives a lot of our business, it drives a lot of advertiser revenue, it creates new opportunities. What we want to do is switch easily between speech and touch selection, and we want to tune that towards the kinds of queries users are asking in the moment. Show me good restaurants nearby. How about a Thai restaurant? Grab a table now and send that to Amanda and Corey. So in this case, we're trying to supplement what would be normally maybe a text search query with allowing people to no longer use keyboards but enter natural language search queries where they're using expressions and terms that they would normally use. We show them the search results, and then you can fine-tune the search either by adding more verbal queries or speech queries like show me Thai restaurants or show me Chinese restaurants to sort of fine-tune the results, or you can tap on individual results to start selecting them, and those can be used interchangeably. We're actually running studies right now that are looking at what kind of differences we can expect between text queries that people would type entries to and speech queries, and how much more elaborate those speech queries are, how many more words people use, whether they ask for different types of things. so that we can understand if there's a fundamental difference in the way people express their interests when they have the ability to actually speak those interests. One of the things that also interests us is this opportunity to integrate common use cases like ETA predictors for coordination. So again, we've done studies of a lot of user mobile activities and family activities, and one of the things that repeatedly comes up as a theme is coordinating meetings, coordinating family events, coordinating children being picked up and dropped off at events, where you want to know where multiple people are and when they might arrive somewhere. So we're looking at interfaces that for a selective group of people would allow us to know what their locations are, and based on current traffic conditions, predict their ETA to arrive at a place. You can send them the destination, and in this case, we send them not only the restaurant and the time, we send them a street view of the restaurant to help them recognize it. We show a map with the 2 different participants, and we can actually show in real time those points gradually converging on the destination place where you want to meet. In this case, it was applied to a restaurant technology for meeting for a dinner. We can also do similar things, as you might imagine, with children's soccer league or school activities where you're trying to coordinate which parents are picking up and dropping off the kids, and you want to know that someone's arrived at a destination and that they've got there at a certain time or that they're on their way. So this allows people to know whether you're on your way and have left or whether you've actually arrived at destinations. And again, this is personalized to the individual, it's personalized to the appointments, and it's looking for the people you know that have given you drive to or stop by, and we can actually accumulate those in your user interest graph now and know things about which are your children's schools, which is your office and home, which is your typical, say, weekend place if you go away on weekends. And we can actually use all of those pieces of information to better coordinate locations and better coordinate sort of family planning. In this particular example, we also showed a notification being pushed to a watch. So one of the things that my team is exploring is what's next after phones. And in particular, we're looking at watches, we're looking at glasses. I'll mention a little bit about smart homes and smart retail stores, where we're looking at these sensor-rich environments and what's the appropriate kind of content to have on these alternate devices, and when do people want to see alternate content. So in this particular example, we pushed a notification to the watch with a little mini map view saying Amanda has arrived, so that what we know is she's parked her car, she's now on her way to this restaurant appointment. So we can tell this on multiple devices, and these devices are all talking to each other and synchronizing with each other. So the notifications might appear on one thing like a watch, but you can interact with the touch screen on the watch and get more information on your phone, and those are tightly coupled and linked together. One of the other areas my team is exploring is looking at TV and mobile. And market surveys are showing that there's a significant number of the population who are using second screen experiences when they're watching TV. So they have a phone or a tablet in use, and they may some percentage of the time be looking for things related to the program on the TV, or they may be browsing the web and looking for other things and reading email and doing other activities. What we wanted to do was explore what new kinds of things could we offer on phones and tablets in concert with a TV viewing experience. And in this case, unlike social media sites today, we decided we would explore a notion of using 3 favorite cities. So with most existing social media sites and most existing location technologies, it looks at your current place you live, and then it pulls in, for instance, news stories about the current place you live. What we wanted to do was mine data and information we have about where your friends live, what social media you use, and figure out what your top 3 cities are. And these tend to represent things like the place you grew up, the place you went to school, the place you now live, the place where your family lives. And what we can do now is pull in information about those cities. And one of the things we found that was fairly obvious in hindsight is people are rabid sports fans for the cities they grew up, and they may live somewhere completely different. So what we can do is pull in things like the sports teams and sports scores, local weather, local news, and Facebook feeds or Tumblr feeds or Twitter feeds from your friends that live in those cities or your family members that live in those cities, and we can combine these into a personal channel for you. So the initial idea behind this project was, what would this look like if it was your own personal TV channel, and in the morning or at night when you're at home, we could run this as a loop and pull in these multiple cities with your friends and family in the news and sports, and now you would get this little update every day, or potentially every hour, that would tell you things going on in other places besides the place you're at. So in the example I'll play for you, my cities are San Francisco, Toronto, and Montreal. So Montreal's where I grew up, Toronto's where I went to school. And here's what this might look like.
Yahoo weather for San Francisco. Today will be nice and sunny with a high of 62 degrees. Yahoo News for San Francisco. The Society of California Pioneers, the most exclusive private organization in the West, is moving to a new home in the Presidio this summer. Yahoo weather for Toronto. It will be cloudy with a high of 56 degrees. Yahoo News for Toronto. Next stop for Rob Ford, Rehabilitation Center. Toronto Mayor Rob Ford began treatment for substance abuse, his brother said Friday. Margaret Atwood has much to say about killer robots. Margaret Atwood has a foolproof plan to stop our increasingly intelligent and powerful machines from rising up and taking over control of the planet. Joe Fish K posted a photo, proudly sponsoring Kai 2014 and having a great time in Toronto.
So again, in this app, what we were looking at was different kinds of news stories, Facebook feeds, and we abbreviated it in the video. The idea was to try and make people feel more connected with these multiple cities and other cities, and then how would they respond to that? We're also looking at ways to interface a phone or a tablet with a TV. So in this case, we're building different kinds of interaction technologies, like can you use a gesture where you can sweep something in the direction of your gesture to move it from your phone to the television set, as an example for how you would smoothly shift content from one device to another. You could also pull content back, and the idea was we want to be able to have multiple people in a living room look at content individually on their separate devices, but then at another point in time, they can actually share that content with the whole group. And what we found from studying this in some trials is that it ends up creating lots more family conversations. It ends up that people love this notion of 3 cities, and they were hoping that we could add extra cities into their online and desktop experiences because they felt more connected with these places where they had strong ties, and very few other sites offered this sort of connection to cities where they grew up or they no longer lived. We've additionally done studies on personalization for content types. And again, we've surveyed large numbers of users, so 6,000 to 7,000 people, and we've asked them questions about what they would want to see in news, finance, sports, and entertainment news, and asked them questions around whether they would be willing to disclose things about their location, things about their interest, and what influenced the kind of content they wanted to see. About half of the people that we surveyed in this particular study actually were willing to share location information about themselves, including locations about other places that they had attachments to allow a site to better tailor the story topics in almost every category to their interests and to this local news feed so that they had some kind of personalized local news. In every case, almost, people want to hear about breaking news, which may not necessarily be personalized, but should still appear so that they're aware of important and breaking news stories or finance or sports stories. And we asked them whether they were more likely to click on content that was relative to life events. So one of the things we were interested in is, if we're personalizing things, could we track or take advantage of things like we know you're about to get married, or you've just changed jobs, or you're moving to a new city, and how would that influence their content consumption? And again, about half of the people surveyed said they were more likely to read content that was somehow aware of these life events that were going on and seemed to be tuned to those events. So in another experiment that we're doing, we're trying to understand something about how this might change retail. And in particular, we're interested in connecting experiences from online shopping and online browsing to real-world experiences in retail. And we've had a number of different clients approach us, from car manufacturers to appliance vendors to large clothing stores, asking us questions about how can we take what we know people browse for online and characterize that same information and bring it with them into the in-store experience. So there are ways they could save this information and carry it forward. And then can it tell the store something about what people like and look at online, and then help them figure out where in the store those articles might be. So one example of this, and we know from our studies again, that as people buy more expensive items, they tend to do more of this online browsing and searching, and they do more research. So they're comparing products, they're trying to actually figure out which ones they're most interested in seeing, and then they may go to an actual vendor or retailer to try and see the things that they've researched online. The other piece of this we're interested in is what can we do in stores in the moment that might give you updates, it might give you sudden moment-to-moment sales or daily sales that would allow us to sort of lure customers that are nearby and influence their choices such that they might either go into that store or they might go to certain sections in the store. So in this case, we're trying to influence real-world behaviors based on these in-the-moment sensing technologies. So we're experimenting with Google Glass and other glasses technologies in our lab, and one of the applications in general across the thousands of people who've been developing apps for this that it seems most likely to be successful at turns out to be these kind of augmented reality shopping experiences. So in this case, what we're doing was doing some window shopping and looking in windows at certain products where we can image recognize those products, and we can provide information about the pricing on them, the alternate colors things are offered in, which items are on sale or not. And it turns out that this looks like one of the promising application spaces for this glass-based technology that has camera systems running to allow you to do this kind of price comparison thing in the moment. So we're experimenting with that to try and understand what kinds of pricing information do you need, how good does the image processing need to be, are people willing to use these, because this is still a fairly controversial technology. The other piece is that we're also looking at this as one place where watch notifications may turn out to be interesting and useful. So can we, if you're in a shopping mall, know something about which stores you tend to be a frequent shopper at, and then have those stores send you messages about special discounts or special incentives. And the idea here is that we would need some kind of reasonably sophisticated personalized filtering, because the problem you might imagine is that now every store in the mall wants to spam you with their notifications. So if you're in a very congested area like Manhattan, for instance, you might get thousands of these notifications, and that's clearly the wrong experience to give someone. So what we need to understand is what are the right filtering mechanisms, and what's the right level of notification, and how do we send those to people so that they're effective, they're relevant, and people find value in them without getting this extra burden of having these constant reminders delivered to these other devices. We're looking at ways of packaging up your online shopping behavior into these containers that not only allow you to bring the container with you to the store, pull it up on your phone, you could show it to a store clerk, you can refer to it yourself, but we also want you to be able to share those containers. So a classic example is that if you're looking to shop for a car, typically you're coordinating that with a spouse. It's a big purchase, you're doing research online, you're looking at certain model numbers, and then you want to coordinate that with your partner to figure out which cars they've looked at. Maybe you want to annotate those and put your own special notes down so that you can share that information, and then later figure out how that determines your decision making. Very few online shopping applications allow you to have this kind of a multi-user experience where you're actually sharing this information with a select group of others. So what we want to do is look at multi-user experiences in this that allow you to determine which people to share this information with, allow you to annotate it, take notes on it, and accumulate this together in a package that you can take to the store or you can share with someone else to coordinate at different time scales and at different levels of detail. We also want to try and figure out places you like to visit and allow those to be part of your user interest graph. So if we know that you have a favorite Friday night wine bar, we want to be able to take advantage of these facts so that we know things about rescheduling your time, we know things about things that might interest you, how would that influence the kind of ads that you might find more relevant. Maybe you want a subscription to Wine Spectator magazine, for example. Maybe you want to know more about certain new kinds of wines. So we want to be able to figure out these kinds of places you visit, especially within the retail space, within manufacturing space, to try and understand more about what that means your interests are. And then this is more than just a product category. It's the brand that makes users feel it's personalized. And I have this particular favorite example from a study we did. So we were looking at categories of things. So for example, shirts, particular brands of shirts by clothing manufacturers and vendors, or specific items that you want. And then there's something about the ads that correlate with that, to a broad category of ads versus ads you like. And this example was compelling because it gave us an indication of how branding gets it wrong and some personalization systems get relevancy wrong. So I can know that in this case, it was an adult male who was in his late 20s. He was buying t-shirts. So it wasn't that he's buying any shirt, he's buying t-shirts. And in particular, this guy was buying rock band t-shirts. And suddenly he started getting ads for Hello Kitty and teddy bear shirts. Not only was it not relevant, although the relevancy engines would claim it was because it's shirts and the guy likes shirts and he likes t-shirts, but it was offensive because he kept getting completely the wrong thing. So this is a point that when you're trying to do this personalization, it needs to be specific and it needs to be very clear that there's certain categories, even within brands or product categories, where you can get it very, very wrong and actually create a negative impact as opposed to a positive impact when you're trying to do this personalization. And then we're looking for opportunities here for new technologies. So what are new and clever ways we might do ads? What are new technologies like iBeacon or low energy Bluetooth, where in-store technologies can actually sense where people are, they know which aisle you're in front of, and how do we take advantage of some of those newer technologies to also make better decisions? So I want to just wrap up by saying, for us, we have lots of projects going on. Of course, we're building better and more beautiful apps, a number of which we're showing in our booth outside. We're constantly iterating on apps. My team worked very, very closely with our mobile team on creating those and building better technology under the hood. We're building much more personalized and relevant applications and much more personalized and relevant content feeds. We want to support many styles of interaction, which includes not just touching and tapping phone screens, it includes speech interactions, it includes gesture interactions, things you might do on watches or with glasses. And then we want to create these new ways of blending online with real-world habits so that we can actually create things that feel like they're more all-encompassing experiences. And then, of course, for my team, it's more than just phones. We're looking at watches, we're looking at technology in cars, we're looking at smart homes, and we're looking at smart stores where you have sensing embedded, you have things about users and patterns of use embedded in these environments, and how can we take advantage of that to build better experiences? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beverly. Wonderful presentation and many things to talk about. Por favor, si alguien quiere acercar una pregunta, por favor, con toda confianza pueden hacerlo en los micrófonos o en las redes sociales. Beverly, personalization is a major shift regarding the value proposition on digital platforms. But there's also a big concern about privacy, because there's a huge amount of information available, and privacy is a big issue regarding this. What would be your recommendation about combining a new value proposition, but also the big concern about privacy?
Right, excellent question. I think people underestimate, even with mobile technology, how much more of your life we can learn about or know about. So we know about your movement patterns, for example. My team actually hire privacy experts, in part just to look at that issue in particular. I think We've been exploring these layered approaches where you disclose certain things to people in your network. So there's a certain level of comfort you have telling family members about certain things about you that you would never share with coworkers, you certainly wouldn't share with your entire social network. So a piece of it is understanding which people see this information, and especially if it's near real-time information. A second piece of it is how is it being used and how informed are the consumers? So do we collect data and do they know what that data is being used for? And we try to be very, very clear on what types of data we collect, how long we save it for, which things we just aggregate so it's never attached to an individual, it's a trend. And we try to be very careful about telling them what we're going to use that to try and do to benefit them. And if there isn't a benefit, you shouldn't be collecting it.
And in your presentation or the videos that you showed us, we saw all the interactions happening with the smartphone because other resources are coming to the smartphone. But what would be your bet on the next device that is going to change our behavior? Because that's the major shift, a big change in our consumer behavior.
Right, so I'm sure everyone's noticed there's many, many wrist-worn wearables for health tracking, to do step counts and look at you walking in the world to tell things about how active or sedentary you are. That's one of the trends that we're observing that's getting integrated in. I think there's a lot more money being spent on watch research at a lot of the hardware manufacturers. They're trying to figure out what the right content is. We have 20 different apps running on watches. Personally, I can say that reading email on a watch is not something I ever believe people will want to do. Using the very tiny watch keyboards is also not especially fun. I think there's clever ways of using these technologies to do notifications for critical events or important events and try to seamlessly blend things like watches, like your home TV set, like maybe a pad by your door that reminds you about things as you're leaving your house that will start to emerge.
Thank you. Hay una pregunta. We have one question.
Hello,
Yeah.
my name is Carlos Negron from visitmexico.com. And I have two questions. The first one is, what is your estimate when this technology is going to be available for the general public? And my second question is if you are going to license this technology to other companies so they can build apps having this technology.
Right, so the first question about when is this going to be available, I would say right now it's in this research prototyping phase where we're building out systems and trying to answer some of the underlying technology questions. So that includes things like stability, how good is the speech recognition, what kinds of commands do people want to issue, how do we handle things like multiple languages and accents. So there's a lot of technology questions first that we want to make sure we have good answers for. I can't put a date on an actual launch, and I'm not going to speculate yet because we have a lot of paperwork in process with various vendors to determine the right kind of collaborations there. I think in terms of licensing, Yahoo tries to distribute and sell the customer experience and apps and content. You should expect that these will look similar to other kinds of Yahoo things where we're not actually licensing a particular technology, we're licensing an application and content, and then we're working with our advertising partners and collaborators to figure out what the right business model is.
Okay, thank you.
Beverly, thank you. Una pregunta más, por favor.
Hi, Beverly. Thank you
Hi.
very much for your presentation. I have two questions. The first one is, with an application like that almost does everything, do you still need a husband?
Sorry, do you still need a,
No.
I didn't understand, do you still?
My question is, with an application like that, do you still need a husband or a boyfriend?
A husband or boyfriend.
Yeah, I don't know what you want to use your watches and phones for, but probably you still want some human beings in your life.
I hope not. And my second question is, at the end of the way, it's the user who decides which technologies uses or not. There's a lot of technology, the watches, the Google Glasses, the M-payments, but at the end of the day, as I say, it's the user who decides if it fits or not. Which are the technologies or the ways perhaps that users are going to use these technologies that are going to survive or not?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very interesting and very hard question. I think one of the ways we try to answer that with my team is that we actually look at various types of early adopters, and one category that we study very deliberately is teenagers, to look at what new technologies they're using. They tend to, in part, reflect hot new trends, either for just apps they download and use on mobile devices or other kinds of technology. I think some of these newer technologies are still expensive and tough to integrate. So spending a couple of $100s on a smartphone and then spending another couple $100s on a smart watch is still probably too soon, and there's not enough value for those watches. I can also argue that some of the development environments are not ready for prime time yet. So in some cases, if the watch doesn't find your phone in close proximity, it won't even tell time from some vendors. That's a disaster. I think it's difficult to tell how the sensor-rich environments are going to play out, because the manufacturers also need to have some sort of industry standards so these devices can communicate with other devices. It's not realistic to assume that you buy everything from one vendor, which has played out in lots of home technology spaces. So a piece of the puzzle is getting to a place where we have the right sort of standards and communications where these devices can interoperate, and then I suspect the adoption will start to pick up and accelerate. And then lots of people are looking for killer apps, especially around these new technologies. I think that's still to be determined. We're also aggressively pursuing what we think are the sort of sweet spots in that.
Thank you very much, Beverly. Muchas
Thank you
gracias,
so much.
gracias por la presentación.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.